The average person, at least here in the United States, gets about 7 minutes of sunshine every day. That's it. Most people, they are stuck behind computer screens and phone screens and artificial junk light throughout the entire day. Roudy from VivaRays, what is this impact on our health and longevity, the impact of lack of sunshine and massive amounts of junk light?
Yeah, I think it's absolutely tragic because most people today think about light as something that makes vision possible. However, it goes way beyond this. Light is the most powerful force that shapes and molds every aspect of our health and well-being. And it is the nucleus of life itself. There's no area in our biology that is not deeply touched by light. Light programs our endocrine system, our circadian system, our nervous system. And what most people today don't know is that light creates matter, okay? So Albert Einstein shared with us an equation. As an engineer, I've always known this equation. It wasn't until I went through tragic time and had experiences farming, and then I reconnected with light in my own way that I understood what Albert Einstein meant by E=mc². And I want to break it down in a very simple way. E is light. M is stuff, just like our physical bodies, the earth, everything around us. And C is speed, right? So again, E=mc². And while this might seem that that's coming out of a science fiction movie, here's what it actually means. It means that light and matter are exactly the same thing. And when light slows down, it creates matter. So again, one more time, when light slows down, it creates matter. And our bodies use this miracle of nature to create all of the neurotransmitters and hormones that we need, which control the way we think, the way we feel, and the way we act. Our bodies literally use this miracle of nature to produce all the hormones that control our metabolism, our sleep and wake cycle, our ability to digest or not, and how well we can think and focus and be productive. We literally have a substance in our eye called the vitreous eye. It's composed of water, collagen, and acid. And its main purpose is to slow light down so that we can use that light energy, convert it into electric signals.
Wow.
And make use of that light energy to produce a very powerful molecule called POMC, P-O-M-C. It's called propionyl-melanocortin, which is a precursor for so many peptides and hormones, right? So POMC can become ACTH, which is produced in the pituitary gland, and it's the precursor that sends a signal to our adrenal gland to produce cortisol. Now, cortisol has a very bad connotation. It's known as the stress hormone. However, in nature, there's nothing good or bad. Everything is relative, and it's about getting access to the right thing at the right time, and that creates wonder. When we produce the wrong hormone at the wrong time, that's when we run into chaos and problems. In fact, you and I and every human on earth, we need that healthy rising tide of cortisol first thing in the morning so that we feel alert, energized, focused, and ready to tackle the day. Most people who are not getting the morning sunlight, they're actually missing on nature's most effective cup of coffee. It's this cup of coffee that happens naturally outside that makes you feel inspired to start your day, that makes you want to think outside of the box, and that gives you the energy and the physical energy to do work, right? And the problem happens is when our cortisol is extremely low in the morning, or equally, if our cortisol is chronically high, right? We live in a universe of balanced rhythmic interchange between polar opposites. And what this means, that there is no good or bad expressions, but every expression must have an ebb and flow, a rise and a fall, right? And when something is chronically high, it loses its effectiveness. it becomes purposeless. Think about martial art, for instance. In order to be able to produce power in martial art, you need to learn how to relax. The more you relax, the more you can direct power in one direction. If you're constantly tense and trying to generate power all the time, you cannot generate power because you're lacking the opposite side of power, which is relaxation, that allow you to snap and move forward. And same with every hormone in our body. In this case, cortisol. We need to experiencing the healthy up and down. Cortisol needs to be down at night and up during the day. And for most of us, it's either very high at night because we're exposing our eyes to artificial light that confuses the brain about the time of the day. It tells the brain it's daytime when it's actually nighttime. And then all of a sudden, we feel this urge of energy and we start wanting to do things. We start feeling wired and stimulated at a time when we are designed to rest, repair, and rejuvenate. And there's a scientist called 𝙎𝙐𝙎𝙎𝘍. He's a German scientist. Back in the 1980s, he published some studies showing how exposure to blue light instantly increases the hormones ACTH and cortisol. And what you mentioned, Ben, is absolutely important because you're right. Most people today, they're spending 95% of their days indoors under artificial light, day and night.
Wow.
And I want to highlight that night because the night is even the more tragic one, right? We are designed to be exposed to no light at night. Even a full moon has a 1 lux brightness, right? When we're in a room that is artificially lit, it's around 500 to 1,000 lux arriving at the level of the eye.
Wow.
So that's 500 to 1,000 times brighter than a full moon. And there is no fluctuation that align with the cosmic fluctuation of the universe that connect us with Mother Nature. We're constantly in a steady exposure to the same brightness all year long. And that messes up not only our circadian rhythm, but also our seasonal rhythm. And on the other side, sunlight is around 100,000 lux. When we are burying ourselves during the day inside, and we're getting only 1,000 lux, that's what, like 10,000 times less than what we're supposed to get from sunlight. So we're almost living upside down. We're not getting the brightness that we need to get during the day to activate all the hormones and neurotransmitters that control the way we think, we feel, and we act. And then on the other side, we're exposed to a lot of brightness at night that is sabotaging our melatonin, the highest antioxidant in nature, and is increasing our cortisol at a time when we're not supposed to have cortisol in our system, which instantly increases our inflammation. It sabotages our ability to burn fat at night while sleeping, and it disrupts our ability to repair, rejuvenate, and heal at night. So POMC, the propionate melanocortin, also become alpha MCH, beta MCH, and gamma MCH. Now, you may have heard of alpha MCH, but when alpha MCH is stimulated, they actually stimulate the melanocytes in our skin to produce melanin so that we can tan. It also increases our libido. It decreases our desire to rely on food. It decreases our hunger level, literally. People with disrupted alpha MCH level, they're much more likely to eat a lot more food and become obese. And alpha MCH is strongly tied to sunlight and UVA and UVB lights from the sun. Now, melanin, the compound that allows us to tan, most of us think of melanin as, what allows us to tan, but melanin is a lot more than this. Melanin is, in fact, the darkest substance in this universe. And what this means is it's a black body radiator. It has the ability to absorb all frequencies of light. And what this also means that the more melanin we have in our system, the more we build up our melanin, the more we can capture light into our system, store that light, and deliver this light to different cells so so that we can do work with that light. And the less melanin we have, the less capable we are at capturing, storing, and making use of light energy to elevate our life.
Wow. Okay. A lot to unpack there. This is so good, Roudy. Thank you for that. All right. Let's unpack a couple things. So E equals MC squared. E meaning light, M meaning matter, and then C meaning the speed is what you said, right?
Velocity, speed,
velocity,
right?
and speed. So the morning time. You mentioned that morning sun is crucial for various reasons. But you are right. Outside of the scientific explanation, like the way that I feel when I get my morning sunshine puts me in a mood, a state of mind where I am experiencing gratitude, I'm energized, I'm ready to kickstart my day. Versus if I happen to be traveling, and this is really rare for me, and I'm in a hotel and I just kind of go from waking up to the conference room, don't feel the same way as when I got the sunshine. So what are some practical tips that you can give those listening and watching for getting that morning sunshine? How much time should we be out getting the sun? Does it have to be right at the sunrise? Can it be an hour later? And what if you live in a high rise? Can you stand on your balcony? Is it the same if you get it through the glass, the window? So there's a lot to unpack there. We'll start right there.
Yeah, that's an absolutely amazing question. So when the moment the sun rises off the horizon, in this particular moment, if you look at your shadow is much longer than you. And this is an absolute signal to you that tells you with no question that at this time of the day, there's no UVA, there's no UVB.
Interesting.
The sun is rising, and blue and green light frequencies, which are on the higher frequency spectrum of light, are slowly rising. And that slow rise in the blue and green light is captured by photoreceptors in our eyes called melanopsin. And melanopsin convert those frequencies into electric signals that tell our hypothalamus that the day is starting, which activates our inner pharmacy to produce all of the hormones that we need so that we can feel that gratitude, so that we can feel that, pulse of energy that we're ready to manifest an amazing day. Now, most of us are missing that signal, and it's absolutely problematic. So how can we deal with this? One, I think it's about making a habit of waking up and stepping outside. Instead of waking up and turning on artificial light, start scrolling on our social media, which instantly depletes all of our dopamine in our brain, and it will lead us to start the day in a very disadvantageous, let's say, state. And I don't know about you, Ben, but I know, for me at least, for the people around me that I observe, I have come to a conclusion that the way I start my day is the way I live my day. And to be honest, the way you live your day every day is going to determine the way you live your life. We tend to not pay attention to those small details, right? But it's those small little things that matter. It's like this moment, you have a choice. Either staying indoor, feeling groggy and scrolling on social media and filling your brain with shit information that will not help you in any way, or you can make that decision. It's going to feel a little bit, edgy. It's going to feel some kind of tension at the beginning because you're not used to it. But the moment you teach yourself on how to overcome that tension, you make that effort to go outside, then within 3 to 4 days, just because you're instantly feeling good, your subconscious might start instantly driving you to do those things without thinking about them. Okay, so replacing the habit of scrolling on social media first thing in the morning, and instead stepping outside, facing east, and watching that sunrise. Directly or indirectly, we will have positive effects on our circadian clock, because that brightness will instantly activate our central clock in the brain, and we will activate our adrenal gland to produce cortisol and all the other hormones that we need to produce.
And we'd have to take off our sunglasses to get that effect as well.
Absolutely. Nothing that is blocking the eye. And even if you're wearing prescription lenses, which I will cover a little bit later on, like the danger of prescription. But as a first step, don't have anything in front of your eyes that is filtering or altering the frequency of sunlight. So go outside, face east, and watch the sunrise, directly or indirectly, from my personal experience. And that's only from my personal experience and the experience of some of my friends that I grew around, and we've done this practice. I have practiced sun gazing, and I have found phenomenal benefits. I did it in a very conscious and deliberate way by increasing my exposure 5 to 10 seconds at a time. And I've never stared at the sun if I felt that my eyes were hurting. Today, I'm at a point where I could do it for an hour. And I have experienced enormous benefits on a spiritual level, on an emotional level, as well as on a physical level, especially when I'm fasting. It becomes almost my source of food. It feeds my body. I instantly feel like, like my leptin or my satiety hormone, like raising up, and I don't feel the desire to engage in food as much when I'm constantly practicing this practice. But I'm not recommending that everybody listening to do it. That's up to you. You could experiment. You are a sovereign being. You could make your own choices. However, one very important thing you mentioned is if you live in a high rise, what happens then? I would highly recommend that watching the sunrise behind the window will alter a lot of the frequency of sun and potentially make it dangerous. Why? Because every system in nature, as I mentioned, literally every system, man, whether it's masculine or feminine, or electricity with positive or negative, or the light and darkness, all of these are composed of polar opposites that must interchange in balance in order to create that equilibrium that leads to motion in a way that is sustainable. In sunlight, if you look at the spectral curve of sunlight, it's also composed of polar opposite. On one side, you have high frequency UV light. On the other side, you have the low frequency, high wavelength infrared light. And everything in between, which is the visible colors of the rainbow, from blue all the way ranging to red. But when sunlight shines, the spectrum of sunlight is always balanced and proportional. And that is why sunlight is nourished. Whereas when we alter the spectrum in ways where, for example, we wipe out certain frequencies, it creates unbalance. And an example of this, take the example of artificial light, right? When you're staring at a screen, or even when you have an LED bulb in front of you or on top of your head, you're being exposed to a frequency that is absolutely not balanced and asymmetrical, right? Now, we hear a lot of blue light is bad, but you also hear people like Andrew Huberman telling people, no, like, blue light is great during the day, you need a lot of blue light. So, who do we listen to, right? I would say listen to the physicist in yourself, test things and look at graphs and understand how nature works, right? Because yes, blue light is absolutely necessary during the day. It's a not escapable color without which we will not be able to raise our cortisol in proper way. We will not be able to produce dopamine in proper ways. However, the blue light that we get from sunlight is full spectrum blue light. And never ever throughout evolution, we've been exposed to any form of full spectrum blue light without its polar opposite in the yellow, orange, red, and infrared. And this balance interchange creates symmetry, and it allows us to receive the benefits of sunlight. However, when we're exposed to artificial light, first, we're not exposed to full spectrum blue light. We're actually exposed to a narrow spike in blue light at 455 nanometer that is not balanced and proportionate with the other frequencies of color. And here's what we know about blue light. Blue light in nature is degenerative, right? It increases reactive oxygen species. And this is not necessarily something bad, because you and I know that exercise increases oxidative stress. However, when you rest, this oxidative stress actually triggers the production of antioxidant. It stimulates your nervous system and your immune system, and you access the benefits of exercise. However, what happens if you exercise 24 hours, 7 without rest.
Yeah, you lose the benefits and you actually harm yourself.
Absolutely. And what happens with blue light is that we are exposed to this narrow frequency of blue, which we have not ever been exposed to in nature, without the regenerative colors that balance it out. And we're exposed to it chronically.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
This is constantly increasing oxidative stress and leading to inflammation and chaos at a cellular level. And what we know is we need that darkness at night to actually clean off inflammation, to activate autophagy, apoptosis, mitophagy, which literally means the programs that allow us to replace the old cells with new cells and that allow us to clean ourselves, to clean the brain, to clean our organs so that we can wake up feeling refreshed and energized. And when we're missing that balance, within this spectrum of light, we're getting a degenerative frequency from blue, and we're not getting any regenerative frequencies from the orange, yellow, and red. That's one. And second, we're missing the balance between light and darkness. And it's this unbalance that is literally causing all the problems that we're seeing today, from insomnia, depression, anxiety, weight gain, blood glucose level, all of the fertility issues, all of the unbalanced effects that we're seeing. They could easily be tied to a disrupted and dysfunctional exposure to light in your environment.
Wow. It's really tied to everything when it pertains to our health. So with the morning routine, let's stick there, and then I want to move to the nighttime. With the morning routine, it's best to go outside, make sure your eyes are not covered. You are not wearing any glasses, no sunglasses, no prescription. You could gaze into the sun if you choose, or you could look away from it. But the point is to have that sunshine hit your retinas, hit your skin, and get that benefit. Now, how long should we be outside in the morning to get enough benefits? And you already mentioned you got to be outside, because if you're getting it through a glass window, it's altering that the light, and you're not getting the full spectrum, the full benefit. So if you have a balcony, go out on your balcony if it's facing east. But what is the time frame? How many minutes should we go outside in the morning for the benefits?
Yeah, that's a great question. And only to add also to another advantage of being outside is that because you could take off your shoes, which disconnects you from the magnetic field of the earth.
Yeah.
And the moment you connect to the magnetic field of the earth, there is a place that allows you to discharge any excess charge. Right? And when you are exposed to sunlight, you're charging, you're producing electricity, and that is tied to the photoelectric effect, which we can talk about. Literally, the photoelectric effect is when light shines on metal and different type of matter, it generates electricity. And our bodies are electric. They make use of this electricity to do work and for cell-to-cell communication and to activate different hormones and neurotransmitters. However, it's always recommended that when you are charging, you're connected to a system that will allow you to discharge the excess charge. And that is one of the massive problems that we are dealing with in our indoor environments. Because we are constantly connected to, laptops and electricity and batteries that are increasing the electric charge in a very disruptive, asymmetrical way. And we have no way to discharge this excess charge, which leads to inflammation. So another benefit of going outside is, and not only staying behind the window, is not only that the window will disrupt the frequency of sunlight, but you could also take off that shoes and connect to the earth, right? Now, how long do we need to stay outside? I would say the bare minimum is 15 minutes.
Okay.
And this 15 minutes is what is going to allow your body to signal to your central clock that the day is starting. And this will instantly raise your core body temperature up. It will wake you up. And it will also set an alarm for another important hormone that will be released about 12 to 14 hours from this particular moment, called melatonin, which is the hormone that will allow you to feel drowsy and ready to go to bed at night.
Yeah.
So that's a very important moment of the day. The earlier it happens in the day, the better, right? So the bare minimum is 15 minutes. Now, my invitation to everybody is to start experimenting on what is it like for you to extend that 15 minutes to 25 minutes, 30 minutes, right? And see what kind of benefits you access. Are you able to increase your productivity by 2 to 3 times? Are you able to feel more creative? Are you instantly getting this, instant flash of inspiration that is tireless, right? That will allow you to move forward in ways where even if you put 10 hours of work, you won't be able to go there. So experiment, see what works for you. And today we're hearing many experts talking about morning sunlight, but very few people talking about UVA light. And there's a massive difference. Why? Because as I mentioned, when the sun is rising, it has no UVA light. UVA starts showing about 60 to 90 minutes after the sunrise. And it actually provides the energy to convert the amino acids tryptophan into serotonin and melatonin, and tyrosine into dopamine. Okay, so I just want to unpack this. First, serotonin is, the hormone that would allow you to feel satisfaction with everything you're doing. To me, I describe it as the hormone of inner connection, of my capacity to connect to my resourcefulness, and my capacity to connect with the world around me and feel that satisfaction in anything I'm doing. So it's an absolutely necessary hormone in a world where most people are dealing with depression and anxiety. Now, melatonin, the hormone of darkness, is actually produced in the eye in response to morning sunlight. All right? So it's not enough only to get that darkness at night. We need that morning sunlight to trigger the production of melatonin. And primarily, we need that UVA frequency. So getting that morning sunlight is great. But my invitation, I want you to take a step further and download an app called the Circadian Lifestyle, which is going to allow you, it's going to register your geographical location, and it's going to give you all the information that you need to actually access the timing of the different frequencies of sunlight, right? So in Florida, it's probably going to tell you, the sun is rising at 6 right now, Ben?
6:50 a.m., 6:45, 6:50 a.m., yeah.
App is going to tell you, I don't know the exact time, but perhaps at 9 a.m. UVA is rising. And that is going to be a very important time to step outside and expose your eyes to at least 10 to 15 minutes of UVA light. Again, we said UVA also helps convert tyrosine into dopamine. And dopamine is this miraculous molecule that allows you to go after what you really want in life. It's the hormone of motivation. To me, dopamine is what allows me to sit down and pay attention. Allows me to think outside of the box and to see the bigger picture in life. And you and I know, Ben, that in today's world, most people are struggling to pay attention. Most people can't achieve what they really want to achieve because they can't concentrate enough energy into what they really want in life. Yeah. Their attention is constantly flying from one object to another. And that is a lack of dopamine. Because guess what? Here's what we know about artificial light. Samuel Mittar, a circadian biologist, published many papers showing that artificial light, specifically in the form of blue and green light, arriving at the level of the eye, suppresses the production of dopamine the following morning. Actually also activate an area in the brain called the 𝙎𝙬 that is known as the disappointment center. So you're much more likely to wake up feeling disappointed, unsatisfied, and it actually decreases your cognition and memory. So if you combine exposure to artificial light at night with lack of exposure to morning sunlight and UVA, it's such a recipe for creating a low dopamine society. And a low dopamine society is a society that can no longer think for itself, that can no longer feel inspired to give service to our fellow human beings. And I don't know about you, Ben, but for me, there's one thing that moves me in this world and that inspires me every single morning is the idea that today I'm waking up and I want to make the life of at least one person better. I want to give all of myself to the world. And that is what moves me and what inspires me. And for so many years when I struggled with depression, ADHD, chronic fatigue, I was low on dopamine. And I was constantly trying to seek unsustainable sources of dopamine. like blue light from my phone, scrolling on social media, validation, dysfunctional sexual activities, porn, drugs, cannabis. I've given myself all kind of excuses about, things like cannabis. It's like, oh yeah, it's a natural plant. But the truth is, I was low on dopamine. I was trying to feel good. And nature has designed us to be addicted to her. And when we disconnect from Mother Nature, we start constantly seeking unsustainable sources of dopamine that leads to addiction and to a chaotic life.
It's a bold statement, and I agree with you. We do have a society that is dopamine resistant, dopamine depleted, and in order to achieve these dopamine hits, people are scrolling on their phones, liking, commenting, being pissed off and resentful. There is a dopamine hit from being offended, by the way, and people love to get offended because they get a high from it. So people are offended. We have the soft society because it helps people hit that dopamine, get that dopamine effect. So light is a big role. It's a big player here.
Minerals, minerals, minerals. You hear a lot of people out there speaking about the benefits of taking minerals. And it is important because in this day and age, our crops, our fruits, and our vegetables, they are depleted of minerals. So you've heard of the keto flu, you've heard of symptoms doing keto and fasting. People just don't feel good sometimes. This is the number one reason why. So my go-to for replenishing my electrolytes and my minerals, for enhancing my immune system, for gut support, for detoxification, is Bean Minerals. It has fulvic and humic compounds, and these have over 70 trace minerals and really important electrolytes to replenish your body with. Check out Bean Minerals over at beanminerals.com. Use the coupon code Azadi, my last name, at checkout to get a nice discount. That is AZADI at checkout over at beanminerals.com.
I didn't realize the beneficial effects of that UVA light around the 60 to 90 minute mark after you wake up. And you mentioned that app, the Circadian Lifestyle. I'm going to download it myself. I have been getting morning sunlight pretty much every morning, unless I'm traveling. There's some rare occasions there. I have a dog, so it works really easy for me to wake up right before the sunrise. I do my morning routine, and I don't turn on the lights, though. So I'm pretty much like brushing my teeth and washing my face and, of course, urinating, and then doing some gratitude and journaling in mostly dark because I want to make sure I get the sunshine light and sync my hormones before I start turning on lights. So I'm pretty much doing it in the dark. And then I go outside and I walk for 15, 25 minutes or so with my dog. I like to sun gaze as well, and I have also built up a tolerance, but that doesn't mean, like you said, that those watching and listening should do that. It's up to you. And then I come back home and I kind of start my day. I'm not looking at my phone. I don't look at my phone for about an hour and a half until after I wake up. But what's missing for me and what I'm getting from this conversation so far, I'm getting a lot, but the one thing that I wanted to mention is that around that 60 to 90 minute mark after the sunrise, that's UVA time, I'm going to step out into my backyard and get about 15 to 20 more minutes of that specific sunlight and see what it does for me. And I think that's a great tip. And I understand that everybody has the luxury of controlling their own schedule, and we do the best we can with your time. So if your level is just getting outside in the morning for 15 minutes, you start there and kind of work your way up. But that's a huge tip for me that I have not been doing. So thank you for educating me on that.
Absolutely, Ben. And the other thing that I would add is UVB light, okay? And most people don't know that UVB actually appears way after. So the only time when UVB is usually present, depending on the time of the season and depending on your geographic location, I would say anything between 11 a.m. and 2 p.m. Yeah. And that's the time when you actually can produce when you can produce vitamin D from sunlight.
Yeah.
We also spoke about the connection between light and POMC and how that connects into alpha MCH, beta MCH, and gamma MCH. And the key element there is the word melanin, okay? Anytime I'm dealing with a friend who's low, when he's feeling some sadness, they're struggling with their health, they're unable to sleep well, my first thing I look at is their melanin level. Have they built up their melanin? Most people today,
how are you testing that? Is it like a blood test you're looking at, or?
By looking at their tan.
At their tan. Okay, got it. Okay, so their skin complexion.
Yes,
absolutely. So look at mine. I mean, I have lights on me right now, but I've been getting sunshine every day. I feel like my melanin is good, but you tell me.
What time are you getting sunshine?
Actually, between that 11 a.m. and 2 p.m., I go in my backyard. I do a workout. I do some stretching. So always between that time, somewhere between 11 a.m. and 2 p.m. most days, I'm going outside.
Yeah, absolutely. That's a very powerful time to be outside. It's during that time that you can build melanin, and again, melanin goes way beyond tanning. The greater your melanin level, the more you can absorb, assimilate, convert, and make use of light energy. Okay, I'll touch a little bit more on this when I speak about the photoelectric effect, but I want to speak a little bit about UV light. So UV light literally lowers blood pressure.
UVB?
Increases the UV light, lowers blood
just
pressure.
UV light in general. So UVA and UVB.
Yes, increases nitric oxide production, increases the efficiency of the heart. So there's also a study showing that UV light literally increases your resting heart ratio. So another study that I've seen, it shows how UV light makes you lose weight. It actually stimulates the thyroid gland. It increases fat burning and metabolism. UV light from sunlight increases sex hormones by 120%.
Wow.
And also, it turns out that the light energy from sunlight, and particularly UV and infrared, is the secret to building highly structured water inside the cell and around the cell. It's what we call exclusive zone water. And I think the first person who described this form of water is Dr. Jared Pollak. And he describes how light and water interact. And in fact, water is the quantum highway that allows us to store this light energy so that we can make use of it and do work. It's actually this structured water and how light interact with water in our body that drives our blood flow. Okay? And we all know that the greater our blood flow, the more we're getting oxygen and nutrients in the cell, the greater our ability to repair, restore, and stay young and healthy. So there's like a lot of different effects. As I mentioned in the beginning of this episode, there's no one area in our biology that is not profoundly impacted by light. And most people are so scared from UV light because they think, okay, UV light is going to make me burn. But the reality is, it's not UV that makes you burn. It's our lifestyle that is completely disconnected from Mother Nature that makes us burn. Our ancestors during the spring, they built their solar goddess. They start exposing themselves to sunlight gradually at a time during the year when UV is also gradually rising. And this gradual exposure allows us to be able to assimilate and absorb light later in summer without burning, right? And on the other side, most people, they expose themselves to sunlight, let's say, abruptly and like suddenly. After like months of being indoors, they decide, oh, it's nice weather, let me go tan.
Or they vacation to Miami and they sunburn the heck out of themselves.
Exactly. You see people coming from Canada. They're completely pale. They haven't built their melanin. They come here to Mexico and they're here partying all night, drinking alcohol, eating seed oil, which is completely dehydrating to the water in their cell. And then they wake up the second morning around 11 and they want to go tan from 11 to 2 and they burn themselves. And they're like, oh my God, sunlight causes cancer. Sunlight makes us burn. But the truth is, you've been exposed to artificial light that is sabotaging your melatonin, the highest antioxidant in nature, and is disrupting your ability to repair and rejuvenate at night. Of course, you're going to wake up the second morning, you're more inflamed, you're drinking alcohol, you're eating seed oil. So you're not creating the atmosphere and the environment for your body to be able to absorb light properly. And then, of course, you're going to burn. Of course, you're going to develop cancer in that case. But it's not that it is cancerous. How could it be? Sunlight, the most nutritious force and energy that we know of, that nurture every aspect of all living biological things on Earth. How could it be that God made that big mistake and and created a sun that is cancerous.
I'm with you. Yeah, Bill Gates, stop trying to block the sun. the sun, to your point, most Sundays, I play basketball with some friends here in Miami, and we go to this park. It's an outdoor park in Miami Beach, and during the summer, the Miami sun is brutal. It's like 100 degrees, super humid, and I'm out there for 2 hours, 3 hours. I'm not wearing sunblock typically, but I'm out there and I'm getting that sunshine, and I don't burn. And I don't burn because I do most of those lifestyle habits with no seed oils or very low seed oils, clean food, no high dose fish oil, which also makes you susceptible to burn. But I also have built up this hormetic muscle, this hormetic ceiling as it pertains to sunlight, because I consistently get sunlight. So when I get an hour, 2 hours, 3 hours, my body is used to, my muscle has been built up. I don't burn. Versus if I was not doing the lifestyle behaviors of a healthy lifestyle, if I was not getting sunshine on a continuous basis and I just played basketball for 3 hours, I would totally burn, right? So start with building up this sunshine muscle, if you want to call it that, and build it up over time, because the benefits are tremendous. Like, I'm just so blown away. I knew a lot about this topic, but you're teaching me so much more, Roudy. And I had a question, though, that popped up as you were talking about melanin and all the benefits on melanin. You mentioned that it helps with like depression, all these physiological processes. And I know those who have darker skin have more melanin. So is there a correlation or something we've seen with those who have darker skin and more melanin, and less of those specific symptoms that occur with low melanin, like depression and other symptoms?
To be honest, people with dark skin, right, who are from African origins and lived around the equator, they're more susceptible to disease and weight gain and metabolic problems. Right. When they move to an area up north that is completely alienated from the high UV light environment that they need. Because when you have a darker skin, what this means is that you need to be outside in the sun for longer hours to make that same level of vitamin D. And yes. So basically, you're a lot more susceptible to chronic disease, weight gain, and metabolic problems when you move from an area like, let's say, Africa to New York, where you have very low UV index. You're living indoor lifestyle most of the time around blue light. You're much more susceptible to mental health issues, weight gain, metabolic issues, and inflammation, because you are designed, you are wired to this high UV environment, and your mitochondria function in such a way where, like the mitochondria of a black person is very efficient at burning food to make energy, whereas like Northern European, their mitochondria uncouple very well, which means like what it does very well, it's very good at burning food to generate heat, right? And why is that? Because when you're living up north, your body has evolutionarily done everything that it can so that you can survive those freezing cold temperatures. Whereas when you're living in the Habaras of Africa, cold temperatures is no longer a threat, but you could be, running into a tiger or a predator, and you need to run as fast as possible. So this almost like genetic disposition in the haplotype of your mitochondria will also like is very interesting to the way it interacts with your current environment and your current light environment.
Fascinating. Really, that makes total sense to me. Really, really interesting. Now, how the heck did you even get into this, Roudy? I mean, what's the backstory? How did you start studying circadian biology? This, you call it electromagnetic eating diet, right?
Yes.
How did you get into this? And let's discuss the solutions here. And we're for those watching on YouTube, you could actually see the solutions. We're wearing these really high quality blue light blocking glasses called VivaRays. But before we even talk about that, what is your backstory? How did you get involved with studying this sort of topic?
Yeah, absolutely. That's a great question. So it all comes back to the time when I was literally a kid, 40 years old, struggling with intense headaches, agitation, and inability to focus in the class. And my teachers were so quick to label me with ADHD and to force me back into this educational system where I felt like I was suffocated, Ben. Like I remember those moments very well. My intuition as a kid was very strong, and almost always drove me to go outside and be in the sunshine. And being outside in nature, it felt like such a phenomenal environment for me to learn. I instantly accessed, you know, like I was able to connect to the rhythm of Mother Nature, and would instantly inspire me to write poetry and to sing and to observe phenomena around me that felt like much more meaningful than being in this classroom between four walls, you know, memorizing every reading. So I wanted to break free from that, and I became like a troublemaker so I could escape that prison. And I was asked to leave 7 different schools.
Wow.
And it was such a struggle, like from the age of 4 to the age of the 18. Like I lived my whole years making plans on things I could do so that I'm kicked out of the classroom, and like was such a struggle. So fast forward a few years, I entered engineering school. But to be honest, most people think, oh, such an accomplishment, wow. But to me, like at that time, I was completely disconnected from myself, Ben. I was like living like a night owl, wired all night, and useless and drained during the day. And I was constantly unmotivated, both in my professional and social life. Literally at the age of like 20 years, dragging myself through the day as if I was wearing a backpack full of rocks. And then I graduated, and you know, I did what everybody does, finding a job, you know, like building my career. So I found myself in Africa working as a civil engineer for about 2 years. And during that time, I was super low dopamine. Like I lived to party, I take drugs. That was the only thing that was keeping me going. And then this one day, the owner of the company asked me to come and to talk. And I knew like there was something wrong there. So I was asked to leave my job. I was fired from my job. And that was like, you know, I woke up the second day feeling literally like shock has read over me. I was, you know, staring at the ceiling, completely paralyzed with sadness and fatigue. And imagine yourself, Ben, in a state where you can't bring yourself to get up from bed or even find a compelling reason to do so. And in that moment, I was like deeply suicidal. Like, and I remember that you mentioned something very similar to what I experienced, which, you know, I honestly felt connected and I related to you so well because I thought about my mom in that moment and how she would feel if I was to act on my thoughts. So after a few days, I stumbled upon a quote from Albert Einstein, and it said, insanity is doing the same thing over and over again and expecting different results. I was like, whoa. It literally struck me like a bolt of lightning and awakened something in my soul. I looked at the mirror and I'm like, what have I been doing? And I had like a deep, intense knowing that I no longer care about my career, that I no longer care about performing and showing up as an engineer, that I'm actually not because I'm miserable and not happy with where I am. So I decided to leave everything. I didn't care. For the first time in my life, I was like, I'm going to do something different. And I started traveling literally into the unknown. And I had one intention in mind. I wanted to meet interesting people and learn from different health gurus and doctors so that I can improve my health. Now, after a few months of learning, I realized that, oh my God, it's extremely confusing because different health gurus were telling me different things and they all contradicted each other, right? And I found myself in this scene of like, eat this, don't eat that, take this vitamin, not that vitamin. And it was all too much and confusing. And no matter how many diets I tried, I wasn't feeling any better. So I sat down in desperation and I felt like, oh my God, why does it need to be extremely complicated? Is it only me? Then after a few days, I was like roaming the vast sea of the internet. And ironically, it was around 1 a.m. in the morning. And I'm blasted with this blue light. And I found this video by Dr. 𝙎𝙐𝙎𝙎𝙎. He's a neurosurgeon from the US. And the video was called Artificial Light is Killing Us. Right? So ironic.
It's so ironic. 1 a.m. getting the artificial light.
And to be honest, my mind was extremely foggy at the time. So everything Jack said literally flew over my head. But then I woke up the second morning and there was one line that stood out and it kept flashing into my consciousness. And the line said, you can't get healthy in the same light environment that made you sick. And I was like, whoa. And by light environment, he means, the light that we're exposed to all the time while being indoors from LED bulbs and screens.
Yeah.
And I'm like, what is he talking about? How could it be possible that I actually could exist in an environment that has no artificial light? And I was having this very funny conversation with a friend. He's a backpacker. And he's like, I think I have a solution for you. I'm like, what? And he said, there's a website called Woofing. I don't know if you've heard of it, man. Have you heard of Woofing?
No.
Okay, so it's WOOFING. And it's a very cool website where you can find all kind of farmers living up north, like indigenous people, farmers who are living in very rural areas doing permaculture, biodynamic farming.
That's cool.
And you can apply to go live with them.
Wow.
And basically you're volunteering on their farm. You're giving them a hand with whatever project they're doing. And in exchange, you're getting accommodation and food. And I was like blown away. I was like, wow. So I applied to this farm in northern Quebec. At the time I was living in Ontario and I got accepted. So I drove 7 hours and I arrived to this phenomenal place in a rural area, which I've never been in a rural area. I grew up in the city and I did most of my life in the city. And being there, I was instantly scared at the beginning because there was some kind of silence to the place where I could hear the land for the first time. And it actually reminded me of the time when I was a kid at 4 years old, how much I actually enjoyed that silence and that nature's rhythm, which inspired me so much. And during that time, for 6 weeks, I was sleeping in my tent, being exposed only to natural sunlight during the day and fire and candlelight during the evening. Because these guys did not have electric light.
Wow.
Now, within a matter of 3 days, I felt a transformation that I hadn't felt in 25 years.
Wow.
Literally, my intense headaches and eye strain disappeared.
Oh my gosh.
And having believed that I'm a night owl, I stopped sleeping shortly after the sunset to then wake up at dawn with no alarm clock, feeling fresh, rested, energized, and exhilarated with a sense of joy that I've never felt in 25 years. And to be honest with you, Ben, my old paradigm there was shaken big time. Because here's what happened. For the first time in my life, I'm standing in the field and I feel this warm hand on my shoulder. And this farmer is tapping on my shoulder, praising me at the level of focus I was showing on the field. And that was it struck me because in my mind, I'm the ADHD kid that can't focus. Right? And in that moment, I felt like intense goosebumps traveling up my spine. It shook me so deeply because I realized I was no longer that person. I realized that I had the power to see myself through fresh new eyes. And back to what we spoke about in the beginning, light creates matter, and lights create the neurotransmitter that control the way we think, the way we feel, and the way we act, right? So light is creating reality. And for the first time in the field, I had the resourcefulness and the courage and the energy to think new thoughts about myself. That completely disrupted my old paradigm and started a fresh new one where I was seeing myself as the focused, motivated, energized, inspired Roudy that I knew of myself when I was a 40-year-old kid.
Wow.
So that was a very, very powerful experience to me, Ben. And what struck me the most is that after 6 weeks, I drove back to the city, and within a matter of a few weeks, I fell back into my old terrible routine of staying up late, scrolling on social media, waking up feeling depressed, exhausted, not wanting to live. And I sat down, I'm like, how could that be possible? So I started engaging in this pattern of going to farms and back to cities. And I started noticing this pattern of feeling exhausted on the farm and then really depleted in the city. And being the curious soul that I am, and having listened to 𝙎𝙐𝙎𝙎𝙬, it led me to this 7-year journey so far of learning about quantum biophysics and observing how most of those farmers up north, they had a quality of light in their eyes that I've never seen in the community of folks who are, following all these dogmatic stuff about light and wellness. Especially when I go to summits, man, you know? I go to summits and like for 4 days, I find myself like imprisoned in a place under artificial light that's so noisy. All kind of people trying to sell all kind of different things. And I look back and I remember, how simple it is to be healthy, vital, and vibrant. It doesn't take that much. It's not as complicated as we make it to be. And yeah, all of this was my trigger to, sit down, think about light, start connecting the forces of physics like light and magnetism and water to how those forces are the fundamental instructors telling our biology and neurotransmitters on what to do and what to do what. And that was an aha moment for me. I'm like, it's no longer about what's going on a neurochemical level. It's like, do I have the physical forces that are supporting me in my environment? Am I getting the right signal at the right time?
What a beautiful story. Oh my gosh, what a transformation that was for you to live on that farm. And within days, you noticed those benefits. It's just so incredible that... Hey, I want to just briefly interrupt the video you're watching to share something with you. One of my favorite companies that I use for health and longevity and biohacking is a company called BondCharge. And they have a whole range of incredible products, including the blue light blocking glasses you see me wear right now. But one of my favorite products from them is an infrared sauna blanket. Sauna blanket works by raising your heart rate to a workout or a training session. So you burn more calories while you're actually lying down and relaxing. Also, it's going to cause you to sweat. And one method of flushing out toxins from your body is through sweat. There's also one of my favorite benefits, this endorphin release. Every time I get out of the sauna blanket, I feel like I just got a 60-minute massage. So it's easy to set up. It's super convenient. Head over to bondcharge.com/KetoCamp. And if you use the coupon code KetoCamp at checkout, you'll get 15% off your sauna blanket. And actually, any of their products are 15% off with that code. All right, let's get back to today's video. The greatest healing tools that we have available to us don't need to cost a lot of money. They don't. It's outside. It's like grounding, sunshine, getting outside, vitamin G, gratitude. There's a lot fasting. There's a lot of tools that are free and honestly more powerful than any biohack out there. It's like the greatest thing that we need is literally right outside your window, right outside your door. And you're a perfect shining example of that. So you created VivaRays, and I'm wearing VivaRays blue light blocking glasses here. If you've been following me on my social media or YouTube videos, or you see me at a conference, I'm wearing my VivaRays. We met, me and Roudy, a few months ago at a conference here in Miami, a biohacking conference, and you gifted me a pair, and I've been wearing them ever since. I love them. My fiance has a few. And here's my explanation about the benefits of wearing these blue light blocking glasses. Of course, you just gave us a masterclass on why you don't want this junk light throughout the entire day. This is protecting my eyes and my brain and my body from the tremendous amount of junk light that's around me right now in this moment. I have 2 lights right here. I have the computer screen in front of me, and thank God we have this technology. We use it, and I'm not a Luddite. I think we should use it and use it wisely. However, I have noticed when I don't have these on and I'm just like this all day, by 4 p.m., 5 p.m., my brain is fried. I feel fatigued and I have decision fatigued, and I just don't feel that great. And I equate this to having a browser on my computer screen open. And if you're like me, these tabs in your browser, they start to add up. 1 tab, 10 tabs, 30 tabs, 100 tabs, and you have all these little tabs, and people are like, dude, close these tabs. So what happens to your computer when you have all these tabs running in the background? The computer starts to slow down. But once you start removing all those tabs and bring it down to 1 or 2, now it's efficient. It's functioning well. It's the same thing with the brain, I believe, in the body. When we don't have something that's filtering out the junk light, the brain has to do it. The body has to do it. And you lose your efficiency throughout the day where you feel fatigued. I feel fatigued. So when I have these on, it's like, okay, let's close out all these tabs and let's let the glasses filter out the junk light, not my brain and my body. So I personally love them. I love the way they look as well. And I just wanted to share my explanation about how this works, but you could add to that explanation as well.
Yeah, absolutely. So that's an awesome explanation, because the body is so good at running a emergency exit, and when we live our life, activating those emergency exits all the time, there come a time where the body can no longer bear that, and then we're like, well, I have this or that chronic disease. Where did that come from? Well, that came from years of being in the wrong environment at the wrong time and activating those emergency exits time after time. So it's absolutely necessary to make sure that you have all the tools that will allow you to optimize your environment, that will allow you to optimize the light that is entering our eyes. We spoke about how light creates reality, right? So the type of light that is entering our eyes is determining the quality of our sleep, how rested we feel when we wake up, is determining the mood we're in, how well we can focus, and how much we can get done. And literally also, if you're eating a meal in 2 different light environments, even though it's the same meal that you're eating, when you alter your light environment, you can have a very altered response. So, for instance, when you're eating a meal in a healthy light environment, there's a biochemist called, back in the 1980s, I believe, I forgot his name, but he published very interesting studies showing how so many enzymes and hormones that are related to digestion and metabolism are activated by frequency of sunlight, so much so that they become 10 times more efficient.
Wow.
So literally, we can be 10 times more efficient at absorbing the nutrients into our bloodstream when we are in the right light environment.
So eating your meals outside, essentially, is what you're saying.
Absolutely.
I'm going to do more of that.
And what most people don't know, when we speak about blood glucose level, it's not necessarily about the food, because since light increases your cortisol,
glucose
right?
follows cortisol
to provide glucose for the muscles, it actually instantly increases your blood glucose level, even without putting any food in your mouth.
Yeah.
Just by exposing your eyes to this junk light coming from your LED bulbs is gonna increase your blood sugar up, and then your blood glucose is gonna crash down. And a chaotic blood glucose level, to me at least, is equal to chaotic emotions and a chaotic mind.
Yeah.
You can no longer think clearly, and that you become very impulsive in your decision. Out of a sudden, you find yourself in front of the fridge munching on food.
Yeah.
And that's another tragic effect of artificial light at night, because when you view blue and green light after the sunset, it's going to increase your ghrelin, your hunger hormone, and it's going to suppress leptin, the satiety hormone. Literally, leptin at night is supposed to travel to the hypothalamus in the brain, and it upregulates the thyroid hormone, making you burn fat at night when you sleep. But when you view artificial light at night, it's going to suppress your leptin, your melatonin, and leptin won't travel into the hypothalamus. So basically, ghrelin is increasing, your hunger hormone is increasing, your satiety hormone that is telling you have enough energy reserve in your body is decreasing, and you're losing your ability to burn fat at night, all of which is a massive combination that will drive you to eat more at night and to gain more weight. So there's like so many parallels. And that's why with the VivaRays glasses, we have 3 different lenses for 3 different times of the day, which are designed to clip onto the base frame, so you can have the seamless experience of interchanging the lenses at different times and blocking the right amount of light at the right time, so that you can keep your internal clock synchronized with the time outside. But
Yeah, so
the one that you might
let me just illustrate that. So for those watching on YouTube, it's called the 3-in-1, I believe, right? So right now I'm wearing the ones that are yellow tinted, and that's for the day. Once the sun sets, then is that correct? When the sun sets, is that the time to put these on? The orange ones, the orange tint, and it just clips right on. It's like a magnet. So I will have these on until about an hour before bedtime. Then I change it to the red, right? So an hour before bedtime, I'll take this off. It's as easy as just pulling it off like that. And then I'll put the red tints on just like that. So we're not saying not to watch TV or not at night. I mean, ideally you don't want to, but if you're going to watch TV, if you're going to do something where you have artificial light, then that's the routine. The yellow during the day, orange at sunset, red an hour before you go to bed. And that'll protect you so your body doesn't have to take those hits. I mean, there's so many bad things that come with junk light. And for those watching and listening, if you want to get your pair of VivaRays and any of their products, and check out their website, it is VivaRays.com/KetoCamp, and camp is spelled with the K. And then we have a coupon code for you as well, which is KetoCamp, to get a nice discount off your order. We're going to put that link in the notes of the YouTube and the podcast. So Roudy was gracious enough to give you all a coupon code. So VivaRays.com/KetoCamp. Coupon code is KetoCamp. We'll drop that down below. Roudy, I have another interview in about 10 minutes. So I wanted to ask you a final question. Is that okay?
Yeah, absolutely.
Is there anything you wanted to add to what I just said before I give you the final question?
I wanted to highlight one little detail, because we get asked that a lot.
Go ahead.
The daytime lenses are not blue blockers, they're blue harmonizers. And there's a massive difference, because most blue blockers today will have like yellow tinted lenses. They block 100% of the blue at 455. And in the process of doing this, they wipe out a lot of the blue turquoise, which is an absolutely necessary frequency to tell the brain it's daytime.
Interesting.
What we did, we created the blue light harmonizing with our daytime lenses, which decreases the sharpness of the inflammatory frequency, and it spreads it across the spectrum, so you're getting more balanced light into your eyes.
Brilliant. That's absolutely brilliant. I love that explanation. Thank you for making that clear as well.
Yes, and Ben, one more thing, like we offer them in prescription.
Yes.
And that's like what I wanted to highlight, is because we came up with a system called the 4-in-1, right? For people who wear prescription. Because if you happen to wear prescription, you're wearing your prescription outside in the sun, you're missing on UVA, UVB, and blue-purple light, which is massive. So we came up with a technology that allows 50 to 60% more UVA and UVB, and it allows all of the blue-purple light. So you have your base frame outside, you're getting healthy light, and then you have the 3 clips, daytime, evening, and nighttime, that you interchange depending on the time of the day to deal with artificial light.
Absolutely brilliant. I didn't even know you had that. That's super cool. I love that, man. My question for you, Roudy, is on vitamin G. Gratitude. I want to ask you, what do you have vitamin G for right now, my friend?
Well, the first thing I have vitamin G for is you as a person, Ben. I highly appreciate you. I have so much gratitude for who you are, how you choose to show up in the world, and the effort that you're doing. Because most people listening right now, I mean, it's easy to listen to a podcast. It's easy to see someone shining and think, oh my God, they have this built in them. They're built in for success. But I do know that behind the scene, what you do on every single day, all the effort that you make, all the work that you put in order to show up as the person that you are, so that you can serve and impact people the way you are impacting. I feel so much gratitude.
Thank you.
That I'm connected to someone like you, and I my circle of friends is like not that big.
Same.
I'm very picky with that, and even though we have not been, we have not known each other for so long, I somehow feel like, this connection and relatability to you, and I'm so grateful for the way you show.
Oh, brother, that's I received that and I appreciate that so much. I feel the same way about you.
If you enjoyed that conversation, you're gonna love this recent interview with world-renowned thyroid expert on why you might not feel well, and it has to do with that thyroid.
They have a full-blown glandular issue, but I'd say the vast majority of people who have any of those conditions have a level of tissue hypothyroidism. That does not mean that we should rush in with medications and treat these people. That's